All right, David, thank you. Well, historic flooding has certainly changed daily life for many families across Outagamie and Waupaca counties, including right here in Fremont. These communities now facing a recovery process that could take weeks, even months.
As that water recedes, officials turn their attention now to damage assessments and the push for state and federal aid. Samantha Cavalli joining us from Fremont with when we could see that funding in this first alert update.
Floodwaters across Waupaca and Outagamie counties are finally starting to recede tonight, but normal life for many may come at a later date. Communities like Fremont, New London, and Shiocton are now moving into the next phase of recovery after days of devastating flooding. While local donations and volunteers are helping families with immediate needs, elected officials are now focused on the next step, documenting the damage and working to secure longer-term help.
It is not a stress. It is not an exaggeration to say that all those communities together will be millions of dollars worth of damage.
Before more state or federal aid can be approved, officials first have to assess the damage in each community and total those losses. Those numbers will then be sent to the state in hopes of meeting the threshold for FEMA assistance, which could take weeks, even months. Nelson says flooding also brings a unique challenge for recovery. Unlike tornadoes or wind damage, cleanup cannot begin right away because floodwaters can linger for days or even longer, slowing down the process for everyone impacted.
We hope to have an estimate sometime soon, and then from that point forward, it's really up to the state government and federal government to act.
Starting Wednesday, officials will begin surveying and assessing the damage, and once totaled up, it'll be sent to the state, hoping to get aid at the federal and state levels. Reporting in the village of Fremont, Samantha Cavalli, Action 2 News.
Samantha, thank you. Well, even if a federal disaster is declared, it could still take some time to get access to those financial resources. Remember in August of last year, that historic flooding reported around Milwaukee and other areas of southern Wisconsin. It took President Trump about a month to approve the city's request and declare a major disaster, and at least 2 months for homeowners to start receiving that funding through FEMA. Right now, state lawmakers are still waiting to hear back on a request for the administration to begin approving funds for disaster aid.